Former US President Theodore Roosevelt famously says that comparison is the thief of joy. I disagree. Thief of joy makes us think that comparisons will only lead to misery. But is that really true? Comparison is a human tendency. In fact, we compare ourselves constantly. It's how we grow. Comparison allows us to form a baseline for where we are in life and where we want to be. Without it, we would have no way of knowing whether we've been progressed at all. The problem is when it traps you. I call it the comparison trap. Unoriginal, I know, but it truly does feel like I'm stuck and I can't seem to find an escape. I start focusing on my achievements versus those of others, and the gap between me and them starts growing in my mind. And I focus so much on this gap that I start getting pulled into it. I lose my footing and I fall. And I keep on falling until I lose all motivation to continue, because they're always going to be better than me. Why should I even try? I remember in 7th grade, fresh out of primary, I was suddenly faced with the daunting fact that my subjects would now be graded. I had never studied a day in my life before, and I had no clue how to approach tests. My first test, I remember frantically shoving as much information as I could into my brain. But lo and behold, I did not get the grades I was expecting. Middle school, everyone else seemed to have done well. What had I done wrong? Middle school me started to get insecure. Am I not smart enough? Did I miss something? What happened? The next whole semester would be spent like this, with no improvement. The comparison trap was heavy on my shoulders. I was exhausted and frustrated, and I had no clue what to do. So I remember consulting my parents, and they hit me with the phrase, "Comparison is the thief of joy." The way I interpreted this, as I'm sure many of you would interpret it, is to just focus on yourself. Forget the comparisons. I tried that. I tried only focusing on myself. I tried really hard not to care. It didn't work. For some reason, I still found myself stuck in the comparison trap. Because nothing had changed. I was trying so hard to restrict my comparisons that I had lost track of what to even fix. So now what? Next time round, I tried switching up how I studied. I remember scrolling through the internet, looking at different study methods, and trying ones with catchy labels such as, "This is your one-way ticket to an A+." But they worked. I did see some improvement. And I realized it's not about the comparisons, but how you use them. You have to be willing to try something new. I had stopped trying to restrict my comparisons. It didn't work because I knew I cared about my results, so I knew I would compare one way or the other. It's something you do naturally when you want to improve. It's human. But I was willing to try something new. At the time, I had a friend that I often compared myself to. Her accuracy, her performance, her speed, her thinking. I would feel disappointed when I didn't match up. In my mind, I could still see the daunting gap between us. But I had to remind myself that I was there to grow. and all it took was voicing my inquiry. What was she doing differently from me? She gave me a challenge then. Instead of trying to memorize everything, she pulled out a whiteboard and told me to start teaching the topic back to her. Turns out, that was a much more effective study method for me. And I had finally escaped the comparison trap. But, and here's the thing. The comparison trap is extremely misleading. It never shows you the full story, and it never shows you how much the other person has done to achieve their results. So, the next time, instead of asking why, ask how. How are they achieving these results? How are they approaching the problem in comparison to me? See, I did use comparison there, but in a more productive way. Thank you.